Before we have our panel, I'm going to take the opportunity to invite a special speaker to come up and address us. The Honorable Robert Pittenger, Republican of North Carolina, has recently been named to a new post, and I'll let him refer to that by the leadership in the House. And he has a special interest in this particular subject, and it's a real honor for us to have him here and have him address us before the panel begins. So, Congressman, thank you for joining us, and welcome to Heritage.
Thank you, Steve. What a privilege it is to be at Heritage. I have admired and followed and participated with this wonderful organization for 30 years. Was close to some of the many wonderful people who helped start it, and we are privileged, all of us, to benefit from the load that they carried to make sure that we had access to real solid data and information that affects so much of our public policy in this country. So congrats to you, and thank you for what you're doing this week on the Homeland Security Week, particularly on No Time to Stand Still. And certainly this is no time to stand still. I think we saw that clearly from what took place in Boston, that tragedy that affected those who live in my own community. I woke up to an email from a friend the person that trains them, had their legs blown off. So, it gets close to home and you realize the travesty and the impact that is made upon our homeland and what shall be made. Years ago, we could pretty much forecast. We had mutual assured destruction. We had the Soviet empire that we were faced with, and that was the focus, was the threat of communism. And you had a pretty good grasp of what you could do to try to challenge that and mitigate the issue. Today it's much more complicated, it's much more convoluted, and frankly a much greater threat. Since I was in the state Senate, I was served 3 terms in the North Carolina Senate, these concerns have been on my mind of what are the prevailing threats out there, and particularly what can be done to protect the American people regarding certain specific threats. So to that end, I worked with some very bright folk to write a preparedness manual. And this was about 2004. And we sent this manual out, probably 250,000 of them, got some sponsors to help put it together. And the Director of Homeland Security wrote a letter in support of it because it was frankly so critical to inform people. I felt that I really feel like that unless we're better prepared and better understand those threats, we are very vulnerable. In the 50s, which most in this room would not understand, we built bomb shelters, and that was our mode of response to the possible threat of a nuclear bomb. And today it's far different. We have to look beyond the traditional aspects of war. So expressing these concerns to the majority leader and to the leadership of the speaker, they proposed that I chair the Congressional Taskforce on Terrorism and Unconventional Warfare, a task force that Majority Leader Cantor chaired for many years, and then subsequent to that felt that this would be the right role that I could play. We frankly need more people out there. I've taken this to Chairman Rogers, who's chairman of the Intelligence Committee. He has arranged some and more briefings for our committee with many folks who are associated, Mr. Bucci and others, with the FBI and CIA and Homeland Security and DOD and others. We want to be well prepared, well versed, and then we want to be in a position to convey these concerns appropriately to the American people. The gravity is so severe. When you look at the strife and the civil war in Syria and the compounds that are available there today, if they were transported out of country, put on a boat by Hezbollah or whoever, shipped into Boston Harbor and blown up, you kill 250,000 people. That's conceivable. We have to be aware that so many things can happen. Had a very sobering discussion with Vice President Cheney about 6 weeks ago, spent an hour with him. One of the brightest people I've ever known, have greatest respect, and his staff have given some very solid direction and counsel to us and our committee. So these things are on our mind. We have to know that those that are out there are unrelenting. They're thinking about this right now. They are jihad. President Obama commented a few weeks ago that the war of terror is over. Could there not be a more absurd statement? The war of terror is not over. This could not be a more sobering time. And that is why yesterday, when we had a very important vote on NSA and what their capabilities should be in storing information, there was an amendment to try to restrict that, essentially gut their abilities. Well, I've been down to their intelligence room, their security room, and I've reviewed those 50-plus documents that cite the threats, and clearly there was an absolute capacity that they had to try to foil those plots, and they did. And they utilized the information available to them because they had numbers that they could track. And what an irony, what a paradox that I don't understand, that the phone book has more personal information about you than what they store. The internet has more personal information about you than what they store. And there are so many levels of accountability that is required in the NSA process. These are professional people. And sadly, I heard some comment that, well, in the context of what the Attorney General did and what has occurred through the IRS, we have to be wary of this. My dear friends, there's no comparison. Those are political arms. Those are political machines. They exploited, they advanced the cause of the people that they work for, and these individuals are professionals. And they run a very professional operation, and they have accountability back to a court. So I felt it somewhat absurd to make the context that, well, you know, you have to look at all this together. We have a very professional organization in NSA, and every way that we can, I think it's incumbent upon us, yes, to protect our constitutional rights to privacy, and we've done that. But we also have a constitutional obligation to defend and protect this land. And I do not want the blood on my hand for what happens in this country by imposing some basis that is not, in my opinion, founded to not allow the NSA to do what they need to do. This has been important work, and in reviewing those files becomes even more sobering of the realities of what could have happened. And that can yet happen today if we're not diligent. So we will remain diligent, we will remain focused on these issues, and I compliment you for being here, for pursuing the best interest of this country in terms of the national security requirements. And I thank Heritage for the continued role that they play to be out front. Avant-garde, they're always there, at the right place at the right time, getting us prepared for good policy for the good of this country. Thank you, and God bless you.